Alright, so I'm gonna give her another test run here. It's been giving me some fits. I think the battery cable is getting too hot because I've been starting and cranking a lot, but ready? Nope. She didn't want it. Alright, the real quick test fire video. This battery on its last leg, but it should be enough to fire it up. I got the key. She works. Alright, so as you can see, I have the seats in now. These are a pretty simple thing from Overton's. You build the base, it's plastic. Then you basically just screw the seats in the front and it kind of folds in. They also go flat, but this boat's too small to actually fit them in their fully extended size unless you have them mounted way too far forward to actually be drivable. I wanted to talk a little bit more about what I had to do to get this thing running. So this is a Rochester 2 jet, and it was completely plugged full of just nasty white crap, as well as the fuel pump. So what I had to do was I had replaced this fuel line already before I even started working on the engine. I had to go in here, tear this whole thing apart. There's a fuel filter right here. Basically what happens is the fuel comes in, it goes up into the filter, through the filter element, down the center, and then it gets pulled through a check valve, and then out another check valve by the suction action of the mechanical diaphragm on the bottom. The mechanical diaphragm is driven by a cam on the crankshaft. So then those check valves will stop the flow going from one way or the other, and so basically only pulls the suction through this filter and then into this exit piece here, and then extra vacuum, I guess, that's on the bottom. Instead of pressurizing the crankcase, they want it to have a space to get away, so that comes up this hose, and then they just run it into the intake of the carburetor. So that's just like a vacuum equalization line, I guess. I don't think it really needs to be hooked up to the carburetor, but I think it's an emissions thing that they require it. So I hooked it back up. Other than that, I had to take this line off, cleaned it with the wire wheel really heavy. It was super rusted, but it was all exterior, and it all came off after the wire wheel got it. This was a little bit more work. So there's a filter in here. So fuel comes in, it goes through this like mesh filter, and then down a little hole, the hole's right here, into the carburetor. The float sits hinged on this back side, so it kind of goes like this, and then the needle comes up here. I think then it flows back down to these two jets, or something like that. No, I think the high-speed jets are in the bottom. These are probably the idles then. So I think the high-speed jets are just like the 60 thousandths jets that are in here, and then when you get into high flow, it just pulls enough vacuum through the carburetor that it sucks out of the bottom of the bowl. So when you're running, I don't think it really matters if your float's working or not, so long as the pump is pumping fuel into it. You know what? No, I lied. The float has to be hinged on this side because that's the stopper that the float would push up against. This is the side where it's got that extra little mesh spring thing. I don't know what it does, but it's over there. It's hooked up to this lever, which I'll get a better shot when I take the carb off and kind of show you. I'm going to have it rebuilt. I'm actually going to properly rebuild it. I just kind of did it for a test fire. As you can see, I just put some gasket compound in there to make a seal, and then reused everything else. And miraculously, it worked with only a minor leak coming off of this, which I think just needs Teflon. It doesn't really run that well though, so I think there's a lot of adjustment to be made, and so I'm gonna have it all rebuilt and with a proper new gaskets everywhere, and replace my jets, my needles, my seats, all that stuff. And then this is an automatic choke. It's kind of old. The way they used to do these was when the exhaust manifold got hot, this tube would get hot, and therefore it would make a bimetallic spring open up, and then it will push the choke into open when it's hot. It does work. I didn't even open it up, but it opened up the choke when I had it test running, and yeah, so that was another positive surprise that everything was going okay. And under full throttle, everything works great. I do need to figure out how to adjust this properly, because I've got this movement here, and this isn't supposed to be moving because I'm in idle. But I have all this movement on the carburetor. So I think this needs to be locked in better, but I'll have to figure that out. Other than that, I was just very surprised and very happy to see how simple this motor really was to get going again. It showed 35-40 for the oil pressure, at least from the gauge. Water temperature was up to about 150, which is a little bit on the cold side, but I was just idling it on pretty cold water coming in from my garden faucet. Alright, so a little bit of info about the outdrive. As you can see, I've got it all disassembled, other than the shift cable, which is pretty seized on there, and I really don't want to destroy it getting it off, so I'm just going to leave it. I think I can get to everything with it kind of hanging like that. This is your trim position sender. I'm not sure if this is messed up or if it's the gauge on the dash, but either way, it's kind of irrelevant for the testing purposes of the boat, which I'm getting into now. This is your water intake. Your drive shaft goes through here, and your exhaust comes out that one. There's a boot around this to seal it, keep everything watertight. That guy. As you can see, there's a lot of dirt and crap back in here. I'm just going to hit it with the vacuum, clean it all out. Then I got new boots coming. As you can see, the gimbal bearing actually rotates fairly well, so I'm going to re-grease it and align the engine, and we will, I think, be good for a test run. But that's the plan. This is what we're looking at. It was fairly simple. I was looking at a bunch of Penta, or the Volvo Penta, whatever they call them, outdrive replacements, and they show this shift cable. You have to undo it before you pull the prop section off, but that's not true for the OMC Cobra. The OMC Cobra, you just have to loosen it. You can pull the whole front piece off. Then this has got like a pile of linkages and stuff that are all contained in this swivel piece. Alright, so I finally got the outdrive finished up, and just waiting for the bellows and the gaskets to come in so I can reassemble everything properly. But it has been cleaned up and serviced, minus the oil change in that unit, because I'll do that once it's mounted again. Basically though, came in here with the wire wheel, blew it out real good. Came in here with the wire wheel and the exhaust one, blew it out real good. The water inlet seal, hit that with the wire brush real hard. Same with my shifter cable, lubed everything. Lubed the shifter cable bearing, journal bearing. In here, the exhaust port, gave it a quick kind of buff over, see if I could kind of clean it up. It doesn't really matter if it seals because it's got holes in the bottom of the bellows anyway for the water to drain out, but that's you know, I wanted to get a good seal anyway. And then up here I gave a pretty hard buff with the wire wheel all the way around, cleaned it as hard as I could, there's a little bit of glue residue here, but you know, that's not a big deal because I'm gonna be putting more on it. And oh, almost forgot. I also greased the U-joints. There's grease zerk here and here. So I just hit them until they started to come out again. But first I cleaned them real hard, and when I go to reassemble it, I'm gonna make sure I put some grease around here, just to help with fitment. I've seen a couple of videos of guys having a lot of issues making these things actually fit together. They get kind of bound up. So anything you can do to help slide together is what I've been told is the best way to help yourself out. So that's that. Thanks.